So thank you very much, Abby, for being with us today. So just wanted to take care of a few housekeeping items. We get these questions a lot. So yes, today's webinar will be recorded. After today, you'll get an email with a link to download the slides, as well as the link to review the recording. So if you miss anything or your notes that you're taking are unclear, you can always reference back. So no worries there. We also definitely want to hear from you. So if you have questions at any point, just use the chat function. Send us your questions. We're going to make sure there's lots of time at the end for Abby to answer all of your questions. So feel free to use that chat function for anything that might be wanting to know more information about. We also do have a lot of free resources available to you. If you go to achievecauses.com/resources, there's all kinds of great free downloads, podcasts, blogs, etc., to help you with your fundraising goals. We also actually added a 2021 year-end fundraising planner. So that's going to take you week by week from September through the end of the year to help you with your fundraising goals. So if you need help for that, that's available for free for you. Abby also does have some additional free resources for peer-to-peer that we're going to be sending out to you in the email as well. So thank you, Abby, for sharing those resources. We also do have a lot of upcoming webinars that are free for you this year. So if any of these are of interest to you, feel free to register at achievecauses.com/webinars. Abby will actually be joining us again in November to talk about multi-channel fundraising. So if you like what you hear today and you want to learn more about your multi-channel efforts, come back and see Abby in November as well. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, Abby, and kick it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am going to kind of switch things around, show you guys what I'm working on and make sure I can see the chat because I'm going to ask you all to engage with me a little bit just so I can get a feel for where you are and what your interests are and what you're most looking forward to today. So we're going to look at some different ways you can retain both your peer-to-peer participants and your peer-to-peer donors. Before we get super into it, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm talking to you. So my name is Abby. I'm part of the team over at QGive. And what I do is I'm the nonprofit education manager. So my job is to learn fundraising trends, fundraising best practices. I do a lot of research into what works for nonprofits, what donors are interested in, and then my job is to boil that down and make it really accessible to you. So you don't have to go do all of the research. I'll do it for you. If you are curious if I actually use this in real life, the answer is yes. I currently am the board chair or the chair for several committees for a local nonprofit, including the marketing and the fundraising committees. So I do this for my job, but I also do it outside of work. And then just a little bit about me. I also am an avid gardener. I have a big garden in the back. There's a picture of me and my husband. I was a beekeeper for a while. And I also write fairy tales. So do a lot of writing outside of work as well. But before I really dive into some strategies you can use around peer-to-peer donor and participant retention, I want to talk to you a little bit about why this is such an important topic. So the first thing I kind of want to look at is the significance of the the financials of holding on to these participants and donors. So we know that retaining peer-to-peer participants from event to event can be kind of tricky, but you do spend a great deal of effort getting people to sign up to participate with you. So the more you can do to bring them back the next time you run the same event or even a different peer-to-peer event, you can spend less money acquiring those participants. There are also some other advantages. So participants who fundraise on your behalf, event over event, need less kind of support and hand-holding as they get started fundraising. So, if you have a brand new participant, never participated in a peer-to-peer event before, they need a lot of guidance, they need a lot of encouragement, they need a lot of extra resources, they have lots of questions. Bringing participants back who have already participated with you in the past, they are going to have fewer questions and are going to need less hand-holding and support on your end. So it makes your job a little bit easier. It also makes them more successful. So people who are repeat participants already know how to raise money. They know what worked last time. They know what didn't work last time. They know what donors to ask for support again. So they're much more effective. And think of it this way. Your very first fundraising campaign as a fundraiser, you were probably pretty effective. You probably learned a lot about what to do and what not to do next time. And that meant for your next campaign, you were more efficient, you were more effective, and you were more successful. And the same is going to be true of your peer-to-peer participants. The other really cool thing that you can do if you have a solid base of repeat participants is you can put those people in positions of leadership in your event, and they can help support the new participants. So we know you're probably fielding emails and calls from participants who have questions about how to send a fundraising email or how to talk to their donors or how to use the software that you've given them. That's a big demand on your time. But if you have repeat participants, you are already familiar with your event, your fundraising tools, and how to kind of get people involved in fundraising, those past participants can be leaders in your event and take the load off of you and continue to help make your event successful. It's also a great way to retain some of those participants' donors. So if Erica has participated in my event in the past, and she had a number of different people support her, donate to her personal page, and just generally kind of encourage her as she's raising money on my behalf. When she comes back the next year, those donors are very likely to donate again. Now, that said, we do need to take some steps to retain the donors you acquire through peer-to-peer fundraising for a few different reasons. Now, some things to keep in mind. Most donors who give to your peer-to-peer event are really not giving to you. They're giving to their loved one who is raising money on your behalf. Now, that can be kind of a blow to the old ego. I mean, we love our organizations, we love our missions, we eat, breathe, and sleep these values. But a lot of the donors that support us aren't donating to the organization. They're donating to their friend or their coworker or their family member who are raising money. They're supporting you, but they're really supporting their loved one. That said, taking steps to retain those donors will help you create a better return on investment. Now, I hate using that phrase, return on investment, because it's really jargony and it's something that comes up in a lot of like marketing think pieces, and nobody really wants to consider this like a jargony kind of situation. However, you do spend a great deal of time and effort building a peer-to-peer event, running it successfully, bringing in new donors, raising that money. And the more life you can get out of those donors, the more you can keep them engaged with your organization, even after the event is over, the better return on that investment you're going to have. Now, because the people who generally donate to peer-to-peer events tend to be supporting their loved ones, retaining them does require a little extra work. We're going to go into how to retain them. So just to kind of set some expectations for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to communicate with both your participants and your donors before, during, and after your peer-to-peer event, and then before your next peer-to-peer event. And the first group we're going to look at is participants. So we're going to look at how you can give your peer-to-peer participants an absolutely amazing experience that will make them more likely to participate in your events again in the future. So the whole goal when you are interacting with your peer-to-peer participants is to make them feel amazing about supporting your work. So you have such an amazing group of supporters here. You have donors, volunteers, you have community members you may never even have met before. You've got different brand advocates and board members all coming together to raise money for the work that you're doing. The way you can inspire them to come back the next time you have one of these events is to just knock their socks off, make them feel absolutely amazing about the work they did, and get them excited about the impact that that work is going to have. And here's how to do it. So before your event even starts, before they log into their fundraising dashboard, we want to make them feel really special during the sign-up process. Here's how to do that. So the first thing we want to do is we want to reiterate to the people who are participating in our event that they're going to make a big impact in their community by engaging with you here. Tell them what they're supporting. If you are the folks who put together the superhero 5K, people know when they sign up that they're going to be a superhero for children that have been abused or neglected. They know that they're going to have an impact on those children, and they're going to be more enthusiastic and more engaged in the fundraising process because they know this. The next thing you can do is include really celebratory language during the sign-up process. A lot of times when we put together marketing assets like the pictures in the superhero 5K screenshot, or when we're posting on social media, we make people feel like they're going to change the world when they sign up to fundraise for us. But then people go through the registration process and it's kind of boring. It's very transactional. It's not very exciting. The more we can do to customize the language on the registration form, on the confirmation buttons, anything we can do to make it more fun sets those participants' expectations high, and it keeps them excited about participating in your event. Another thing you can do is add that same kind of celebratory language to your confirmation page. So after a participant goes through the sign-up process, they're all registered, they're ready to start fundraising, they land on that beautiful confirmation page, and you can say something like, "Congratulations, you're one step closer to being a superhero for an abandoned child." I mean, anything you can do to get people excited and to keep that tone of excitement and appreciation going is going to be effective for you. You can do the very same thing with your receipt. Now, a caveat, your receipt does have to include, the transaction details. It has to include the registration amount that they paid, their payment information, billing information, little things like that. But remember, this is your first engagement with these groups of participants after they have signed up to support you. So this is a really valuable place to make them feel seen and appreciated and to get them excited for the work that's coming up. So add a picture, add a couple sentences, congratulating them and thanking them for signing up. And then remember to tell them what impact they're going to make as they raise money for you. Now, I bolded this last bullet point and keep reiterating their impact. I bolded it, I made it orange. I wanted to put little sparkles around it, but it made the file size too big. Remember, as you are engaging with the people who are raising money for you, they're raising money for you because they want to make an impact on their community. So the more you can speak to the impact they're going to make, the more likely they are going to be to stay engaged with you throughout the event. And it's going to set them up to engage with you again, your next event. So that's what you do kind of as they're getting started fundraising. Now, during the actual fundraising period, here are some tips for how to kind of set the stage for people to continue to engage with you. The first thing is the biggest thing, and I wish I could yell this, but my husband's working in the other room and I don't want it to get in trouble. Help your participants be successful. Make sure they have the resources they need. Make sure they know who to contact if they have questions. The reason this is so important is because it is very fun to succeed. And if an event is fun, they will participate again the next time around. I'll use this story from my childhood. I was on a soccer team. I was on the Plant City Tigers, and I was so excited about being on the Tigers. I went to practice. I had my little shin guards. I was doing all kinds of stuff. But the coach wasn't having fun, and we could tell he didn't really want to be there, and we lost every game. We didn't win one game all season. I never succeeded during that soccer season, and I didn't want to play in the next season. In the same way, your participants want to win. They want to have fun, they want to win, they want to reach their fundraising goals. And the more you can do to help them succeed, the more likely they are to participate again in the future. as you're kind of setting people up for success by making sure they have the resources and the contact and the help that they need, send them periodic emails to kind of inspire them and to keep them going. Now, this accomplishes two different things. One, these emails make them feel seen and appreciated. It lets them know that you care about them and you care about their success. It also keeps them engaged during the fundraising process, despite the fact that they're very busy. So if you think about it, most of your fundraising participants have jobs, they may have families, they may have other organizations they volunteer with, they have bills and social events and all kinds of stuff going on. Sending these periodic emails, encouraging them, updating them, giving them more resources and ideas, the more you'll kind of stay top of mind for them, the more they'll engage with you, and the more likely they are to succeed. So send those emails throughout the course of your fundraising period. Another thing I would really encourage all of you to do is to publicly celebrate the people that are engaging with you. So of course, you are going to want to make sure that they're comfortable with this before you actually post them on Facebook or Twitter, something like that. But really, anything you can do to publicly show your participants that they're appreciated and that you value their hard work, the more likely they are to feel fondly toward your organization, continue working on raising money for you, meet their fundraising goals, and then those good feelings and that feeling of pride and success will carry over the next time it's time for you to ask them to raise money for you again. Another thing that I would really ask you to focus on if you want to keep these peer-to-peer participants engaged from event to event is to reward them when they are actively raising money for you. Anything you can do to make this event fun for them is going to be a huge help as you ask them to participate in future events. So some basic things you can do: set little fundraising milestones and then help them meet them, and then celebrate their hard work. So if you ask me to raise $5,000 for you, I'm going to be kind of intimidated. I have never really raised money before. $5,000 is a big number. So what you can do to help me kind of get started and set me up for success is to ask me to raise $500 first and then celebrate it when I get there. Ask me then to raise $1,500 and then celebrate when I get there. Giving those little incremental steps makes meeting your goal less scary. It keeps people engaged and excited about reaching the next fundraising milestone, and it makes them more likely to succeed, and that will set them up for future engagement. I just saw someone ask, what is my definition of peer-to-peer? My definition of peer-to-peer in this instance is asking your volunteers, donors, supporters, whoever, to raise money on your behalf. So Samantha, if I asked you to raise money for my animal shelter, you would sign up. You can set up a personal fundraising page, ask your friends and family for donations, and then that money will go to support the cause that you've chosen. So in this instance, these are little badges that were put together by Seattle Shakespeare. They're a Shakespeare company in Seattle, shocking. And people could sign up to raise money on behalf of Seattle Shakespeare. They'd ask their friends and family and coworkers to support them by donating. And then in this instance, the fundraising period kind of culminated in a big performance. Speaking of badges, I would encourage you, if you could, to incentivize participation. Now, when I say incentivize participation, I mean giving people little prizes or rewards throughout the fundraising process so they stay excited and engaged in the fundraising process. So this doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could be digital badges like this. It could be little personal shout outs on social media. It could be something like event swag. We see that all the time. Participants who raise $100 get a free t-shirt and a water bottle for our 5K, or people who raise X amount of money get raffle tickets or something kind of tangible. The big goal here is to reward people for their participation so they stay engaged, and it works toward that overall goal of making this a really fun event that people want to participate again in the future. The other thing here, it sounds kind of silly, We need to thank our participants, and I can almost hear someone kind of rolling their eyes saying like, yes, Abby, we know we need to thank people for their participation. But thanking people repeatedly throughout the fundraising period. So we thank them when they sign up, of course, but thanking them periodically throughout the fundraising period makes them feel appreciated. It sustains that feeling of appreciation, and it ingratiates yourself to them. So they're more likely to continue to help you because you are recognizing and celebrating the help they've already given. Now, after this is where we really get into the nitty-gritty of the retention. After your event is over, it's time to kind of double your retention efforts. So we set them up to feel amazing during the event. We're giving them a fun experience. They're having a blast. They're already excited about your next event. But after the event, it's important to focus on kind of keeping those warm, fuzzy feelings going. So here's how you can do that. The first thing you could try is asking them for feedback. Everybody likes giving feedback. They like feeling like they have a voice. They like feeling like they're helping shape future events. So try sending a survey. You can do that online. You can try calling your participants and asking them how they think the event went. Ask people for their input. Worst case, you'll get no responses, but your participants will know that you looked for and valued their opinion. And best case, you have participants who are actively involved in helping you build an amazing future event, and you could get some really cool ideas for your next campaign. So try sending a survey or asking people for their input. And then I would encourage you to offer other ways to get involved with your organization that are not necessarily financial. And here's why. When a couple years ago, I published a research study called the Generational Giving Report, and we looked at the different kind of cohorts of donors that enjoy participating in these peer-to-peer events. A lot of the people who like participating in these events are younger donors. So millennial donors, they're generally in their like mid to late 30s down through Generation Z donors. So in their mid to early 20s and younger. Those donors tend not to have a ton of disposable income, but they are excited about helping participate in other ways. So ask them to volunteer, ask them to serve on an advisory board or a junior board. Give them a way to stay involved with your organization. So when you ask them to participate in future events, there's already an ongoing relationship there. It's not like you're that wacky cousin that asked for a favor last year and then you're asking for another favor again this year. So keep them involved. And then this is one of my favorite tips. Try setting up a special group for past participants. So this screenshot here is actually from an organization for whom I participated in a peer-to-peer event. I participated in their Lakeland Derby, which is a swan boat race. It's really fun. And anyone who has participated in that peer-to-peer event is invited to join the Swan Society. So it's an exclusive group. You can only be in this group if you participated in this event before. There is a financial component. You do have to give at a certain level to stay in the Swan Society, which I think is kind of brilliant. So this is just kind of a great way to keep people engaged. It builds a community between all of your different participants. That community is engaged with your nonprofit, and people feel kind of special because they're in your special little group, and that makes them feel more fondly about your organization. You can continue to engage your participants between events by getting them hyped up about your next big event. Now remember, you spent a great deal of effort making sure they had fun and were successful, and you've kind of built a little community of participants. So as you're getting them psyched about your next event, remind them how much fun they had supporting you in your last event. And then get them excited about participating again. You can send them special invitations to your next event. You can try a couple things. You can make them feel like really like part of an inside group. You can give them early access to your event. You can give them sneak peeks throughout the planning process for your next event. You could try offering a promo code. So some nonprofits decide not to have a registration fee associated with their peer-to-peer events, but a lot of them do. So if you're running an event that has a cost to the registration, you could consider offering a promo code to previous participants. So if Samantha participated in the SPCA Walk for Animals last year, maybe we can send her a promo code and invite her to participate again at a 10% discount. Makes people feel like they're special. And then, of course, as I kind of alluded to a couple of slides ago, you can offer them leadership positions at your next event. One local nonprofit does that. They have the most successful fundraiser from their peer-to-peer event serve as the head of the next peer-to-peer event. So that was that Swan Derby. So for me, it was a girl named Catherine. She had raised the most money the year before. They invited her to come back as Mama Swan, and she kind of mentored all of the fundraisers the next year. It's a really great opportunity to engage people and kind of make past participants feel special. Now, here are some communication tips. You kind of use this as a basic guideline for communications throughout the event and leading up to the next one. So during your event, your goal with every communication you send out is to help your participants succeed and make them feel valued and loved. So we talked about thank you messaging, and I wanted to reiterate it here. So remember, your participants are not only donating their time and their money, but they're also donating access to their social networks and their reputation. So it's a big deal. Thank them for that. Send them periodic tips. So we talked about sending periodic emails that thanked people for their ongoing participation. Try sending them fundraising tips as well. What we want here is to set them up for success so they're more excited about participating next time around. And then do take time to encourage your participants, celebrate their wins, help them out if they're stuck, and just generally keep in touch and stay helpful so they know that they are supported and are able to succeed. After the event, your goal for your communications changes a little bit. You want them to understand the impact they made. So remember, we talked about how participants sign up to raise money for you because they want to make a difference. So if we reiterate the impact that they made, they're more likely to engage again in the future. So immediately after your event, send an update to all of your participants that shares how much they raised, how much of a big difference they're going to make in their community, and then a big thank you message. And then after that initial update, as you've started kind of pulling together the money they raised, as you've started spending that money on your programs, share that tangible impact with your participants. Focus on stories. We know that peer-to-peer participants in particular are very motivated by understanding the individual people that they helped. So share stories and then be as specific as possible about the impact that they made. Ask them to get involved other ways. We've kind of alluded to it earlier, but here you can identify individual participants that maybe did very well, and you can invite them to volunteer. You can ask them to serve on your board or an advisory board or a junior board, and then invite them to donate in the future. And then before your next event, we want to get them psyched up about this event. We want to remind them how much fun they had last time. And then we want to kind of reiterate the impact that they made then, and then tell them that they can make an even bigger impact this year. So send sneak peeks that give kind of details and an inside look at what you're doing to prepare for your next event. So send them pictures of the medals that you've gotten for your 5K. Send them a sneak peek of the design for the t-shirt that you're using for your event. Make them feel like they're part of this exclusive group of insiders. They're going to be more likely to engage with you if they're already getting excited about the event before it happens. So now to do that, you're going to need to segment the invitations that you're sending out. So if you are sending me an email letting me know about this cool event and you'd like me to sign up, and I've never participated before, you're going to speak to me a little differently than you would if I had participated the last 2 or 3 events. So as you're inviting your supporter base to engage in this event, whether it's to donate or to volunteer or to actually sign up to raise money for you, segment those invitations so you can speak to your past participants and your potential participants a little differently. And then if you really are feeling adventurous, you can try offering specific incentives to past participants to inspire them to get involved again. Those promo codes are always a hit. You can try giving them discount codes for merchandise. So maybe you really need to stick to your specific registration fee, but you can give them a little bit of a discount on event swag. Or you could even come up with some special swag specifically for repeat participants. Get creative here. Really what you're trying to do is remind your past participants that they were amazing last year and you want them to do it again this year, and then make them feel valued and special and like they're part of a little insiders club. So that was the participant side of things. We're going to switch our focus a little bit and we're going to look at how to retain your peer-to-peer donors. So remember, as we go through this section, these donors are a little different than the donors that come in, say, through your annual campaign or capital campaigns or something like that. So we're going to look at how to engage them, even though they maybe aren't necessarily terribly familiar with your organization. So if you want to keep your donors, especially if they're new donors that you've acquired through a peer-to-peer fundraiser, we need to make them understand first why they're valuable and show them that you really appreciate them. So the biggest thing you can do here is to equip your participants to thank their donors properly. If I donate to Marcia and I never get a thank you from her, that's probably going to hurt my feelings a little bit. So we want Marcia to get we want Marcia to send me an email thanking me for my participation. Now, that isn't to say that those are the only thank yous our donors should get. Our donors should also get thank you emails from us. So your donors really should be getting 2 thank you messages. They should be getting one from the participant that they supported, and they should be getting one from the organization. That's us. So we want to send our own thank you emails. We want to send our own impact reports, and we want to communicate with them outside their relationship with the participant they supported. Now, this is important. So when your campaign ends, when your peer-to-peer fundraiser is over, you've closed registration, you've closed the donation form, the first thing we want to do is send donors an update about how much they gave and what that money will accomplish. I'll go more into detail on this in the communication section, but this is something to keep in mind. Then the next step is to make these donors love our organizations. So retaining these peer-to-peer donors can be tricky. They're not necessarily giving to Mercy Ships or the SPCA. They're giving to their cousin or their coworker or their girlfriend. So we may not even be terribly familiar, or they may not be terribly familiar with our organization and our mission. So the first thing we want to do is we want to communicate with them a little differently. So regardless of what CRM you're using, create your own segment for peer-to-peer donors, because for a while we're going to need to talk to them differently than we do the donors who are already very familiar with our mission. So speaking of your mission, your donors may not necessarily be very familiar with what you do. So when I raised money for Lakeland Volunteers in Medicine, that Swan Derby I talked about a minute ago, a lot of my friends and family weren't familiar with the organization. They only knew that I cared enough about them that I was raising money, so they donated. So what you can do to engage those people is to create an introductory email or even a series of introductory emails that just lets them know who you are, what you do, and why their support is important to you. So kind of think of this as a blind date. You need to give them the basics and then kind of give them enough information that they can choose whether or not to continue engaging with you. Now, even if they're donating to a loved one, donors do like knowing that their money is going to make a difference. So even though they're giving primarily to support their loved one, they are going to be more likely to donate to you again in the future if they understand that doing so makes a real difference. So anything you can do to make your donors understand the impact their gift has made on their community is going to be beneficial to you. And it's going to make them more likely to donate again in the future. So after you've kind of sent that initial messaging, your next step is to invite those people to stay engaged with you even after the event has concluded. So they may need a little extra attention. So do intentionally reach out and invite them to stay connected with you. This isn't the time to ask for another gift. So here are some ways to kind of keep them engaged. Ask them to follow you on social media. It's a small thing. But if you've got an active social media presence, it's a great way for them to learn about your nonprofit. Ask them to sign up for your newsletter. You can say, thank you so much for your donation to this campaign. You're helping achieve some really beautiful work in our community. Sign up for our newsletter for updates on what you've helped accomplish or something like that. And then give them opportunities to communicate with you other ways, whether that is sharing contact information for someone at your organization if they have questions, whether it is sharing videos about your work, anything you can do to kind of get them familiar with your nonprofit and what you do will set them up for engaging with you in the future. And then I did want to reiterate, I said a second ago, this isn't the time to make an ask, and it's still not. So give them other non-financial ways to help you out. If I have donated to Erica and she says, thank you so much for your support. Hey, will you give me another $30? I'm going to be kind of annoyed with her. But if she said, hey, thank you so much for donating. If you'd like to learn more about our organization, come check out our facility. We're doing a facility tour, or come volunteer with us. I'll be much more likely to engage with her then. So give your donors non-financial ways to get involved with you. And then eventually, as they become familiar with you, as they learn more about your mission and what you're about, you can gradually move them into the list that you use for your general fundraising and marketing. So here's some kind of communication styles that you can try and when to use them. So during the event, every communication you have with your peer-to-peer donors is to make them feel like they are a very important part of your work and that they are helping you and your participants succeed in meeting this goal. So of course, you're going to hear me talk about thank yous a lot, and this is no different. Your participants should send thank you messages, and so should you. And in those messages, include a note about how much you appreciate their support, and then tell them what their support is going to achieve. Give them a little introduction to your organization. So as you engage with these donors, remember they may never have heard of your nonprofit before. They may be totally unfamiliar with the work that you do. This is an opportunity to introduce yourself to them, let them get to know you a little better, and then kind of set the stage for a relationship in the future. And then anything you can do to be specific during the event about the impact they're going to make is going to make them feel really great about their gift. And the more specific and personal and story-driven those impact updates are, the more successful you'll be. After the event, your goal changes a little bit. So here we really want to focus on making these peer-to-peer donors understand that they have made a good choice in donating to us. Show them that you're going to use their money wisely, and show them that the money that they've given is actually making a real tangible impact in their community. You can reiterate this in your thank you messaging. So you thank them when they gave, thank them again after they gave. When the event kind of wraps up, it's a great opportunity to give them an update, thank them, share how much they helped raise, and then tell them what that money will accomplish. That's kind of what I just said there, but I just really want to reiterate how important this is. We know that donors are most likely to give again in the future if they know that their gift has already been used wisely. If they don't feel like their money has been used wisely, they won't give to you again. So reiterate that impact. And I wanted to point out, just because they did such a great job This organization here over and these screenshots put together a really simple video. It was just over 4 minutes, and it led with kind of a thank you. You helped raise more than $90,000. Here's what's going to happen now that that money is with us. And it invited people to watch the video and stay engaged. So awesome technique. And now here's a big secret psychological hack. If you tell your donors in advance that you're going to be communicating with them over the coming weeks and months, they're more likely to open those emails. So if I send Erica an email out of the blue, the odds of her opening it are probably pretty low. But if I told her on this call, hey, Erica, tomorrow around 2 o'clock, I'm going to send you an email with a couple questions for you in it, she's going to be much more likely to open and engage with that email. So if you want to keep your new donors kind of engaging with you between events, tell them you're going to communicate with them, tell them what to expect, and they'll be much more likely to engage with you that way. If you want to just absolutely knock your new donors' socks off, here are some ways that you can kind of go above and beyond. Try combining those digital messaging pieces that we've been talking about. So the receipts and the thank you emails and the impact updates and the newsletters, and throw some analog methods into the mix. You can make a personal phone call. I just felt at least one person make the ugh face, because that's very frequently the reaction I get when I tell people to make phone calls. A question I get all the time, like, hey, we tried making personal phone calls. No one ever picks up the phone. What do we do? If you're making a phone call to a new donor, one, they are probably not going to answer the phone. That's okay. Don't get your feelings hurt. Caller ID is a blessing and a curse, and people aren't going to answer the phone. But leaving a voicemail for your donor, just thanking them for their gift, telling them what it's going to achieve, and then inviting them to contact you with questions or feedback or something, is just as effective as actually having a conversation. So don't fear the voicemail, embrace it. Try a handwritten thank you note. I, as a millennial, am a sucker for a handwritten thank you note. I never get handwritten anything. If you send me a handwritten thank you note, I'm going to remember, and I'm going to feel very fondly of you. And then if you really just want to go above and beyond, you can try inviting these donors to a donor appreciation event. This is especially useful if you are running a peer-to-peer event that kind of culminates in a 5K or a performance like the Seattle Shakespeare one. Invite your donors to come and meet you and thank them in person and kind of bring them into the fold that way. You can use the same tip that I shared for participants with your donors here. You can send them a survey and ask them how they felt about your nonprofit, if they have any questions, how they heard about you, little things like that. And then just start conversations with them, ask them for feedback, ask them for ideas, ask them to share their experiences with you. And then everything you can do here to make them feel valued and appreciated as they're engaging with you will make them more likely to donate again in the future. This may be a great opportunity to kind of identify some areas for improvement. So you have a really valuable asset here. You have a group of people who are communicating with you, even though they have potentially little to no idea what you do, and they don't really have a background with you. So you can get some really valuable insight from these donors about how your organization presents itself or how clear you are in your messaging. Ask them to let you know what they think and what their impressions are. And then you may get some great ideas for ways to change your messaging to make it more clear. And then, of course, you want to communicate with these donors before your next event. Your goal here is a little different. So you want to, instead of telling them how much or reminding them how much fun they had last year donating, we want to remind donors about the difference they made when they supported their past peer-to-peer campaigns. So there are a few things you can do here. You may want to invite these donors to actually participate. So this happened to me. I participated in that Swan Derby. I had donated the year before to a coworker of mine who was participating in the same event. Because of that, I was invited to participate in that peer-to-peer event. You can, if you want to really set this up, you can tell these donors, look, you made so much of a difference last year. You helped accomplish X, Y, and Z. You can make an even bigger impact if you actually sign up to participate in this year's event. It's a good engagement opportunity. If they decide not to participate, you can send them an appeal asking them to donate to this event. Now, I put in parentheses here that you want to exclude participants. So if you ask your donor, if you ask me like, hey, Abby, you donated to our event last year, why don't you sign up this year? And I signed up and then you sent me an email asking me to donate, I would kind of feel like you weren't really paying attention to the fact that I'm already supporting you. So segment those appeals if you can. And then in these appeals, thank them for their past support. Thank you for donating last year. You made a huge impact. You helped us provide this service to this group of people. Would you support the same campaign again this year? So you're kind of setting them up either to participate or to donate to you again. So I just threw a ton of information at you and I want to leave some room for questions. So I'm going to give a really quick recap of all of the information that we just went over. So the first thing to remember is that these efforts do pay off. It's a lot of communication and a lot of work and a lot of planning, but these do pay off. Retaining your peer-to-peer participants from event to event and retaining your peer-to-peer donors from event to event is a great way to raise more money without spending a ton of extra time and money. Having a great communications plan in place before your event is very important in keeping your participants and your donors engaged and excited and enthusiastic about your work. So come up with a plan now. So when it's time to kind of communicate with these people and execute the plan, you'll know exactly what to do and when. The most important thing you can do if you want to participate to support future events is make them feel successful and appreciated. So set them up for success, give them the resources that you think they might need, make sure they know who to contact if they have questions, celebrate their accomplishments, and really make them do everything you can to make them have fun. No one wants to participate in an event if last year's event was a drag. So make it fun. And then for those participants who do sign up to participate in your next event, give them the opportunity to play a larger, more significant leadership role. Ask them to mentor new participants, make them team captains, make them leaders, point people in their direction if they have questions. Give them the opportunity to kind of grow. It'll make them feel special and it will take some of the lift off of your plate. Now, peer-to-peer donors do need a little extra attention. They may not necessarily be familiar with your organization or your work when they give. So it's our job to make them feel great about their gift and then to give them a reason to stay engaged with us between events and really in other campaigns that we're running. And then as you're planning all of this, work on thanking your participants and your donors and make sure that everything you send to them inspires them, it makes them feel good, it tells them what kind of impact they're making, and just generally delights them. I use this example all the time. I get a lot of nonprofit emails. I don't open most of them, but there are a couple nonprofits that just send delightful content all the time. And I always prioritize opening their emails. So anything you can do to kind of inspire and delight your donors and participants will keep you at the top of their mind and make it more likely that they participate with you in future campaigns. So I'm going to make sure that Erica has this. I'm going to send you an ebook that really dives into very specific strategies that you can use to retain your peer-to-peer participants and your donors. We wrote it in conjunction with our friends over at Bloomerang. So if you're familiar with them or with Stephen Shattuck, you know that he is an absolute whiz with retaining people and like really making them feel loved and appreciated. You'll love this ebook. All of that said, do we have any questions that you would like me to answer?
Looks like we've got one question here. Let me go back to it here. For a smaller organization, if you had to choose just one of these tactics that you talked about to start with, what would that be?
I think I would really emphasize the thanking portion. So the reason I say that is because if you're a small organization, you probably don't have a lot of time and resources to spend on incentives, or maybe you don't have the tools to really get aggressive with your segmentation and your messaging targeting. But if you can add thank you language to your registration process, your confirmation page, and your receipts, all of those are pieces that you only have to kind of touch them once, and you can automate them from there. So you spend an hour or two creating some really great thank you messages, and then you get a lot of mileage out of that. The other thing I would tell you to focus on is thanking people after the fact. So thanking people and then telling them why their gift was important will have a tremendous impact. Incentives are great. Making sure people get an email from you every week is fine, but really what will motivate people to participate with you again and again is knowing that they made a difference and that the difference was seen and appreciated and that you appreciated it. So anything you can do to make them feel thanked and special is important.
Awesome. Very good advice, Abby. Thank you. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to either chat the panelists or just put it in the group chat there. Abby's going to hang around for one more minute. Oops, we've got another one. Do you have templates organizations can use to follow when creating this type of campaign?
Yes. So a lot of these tips will be included in that ebook that we're going to send you. And then if you are looking for specific templates, if you go over to the QGIF website and just look around our blog, we have some templates and pointers that you can use as you're building, especially like receipts and some of the design pieces that go into your peer-to-peer event. I can send those over to Erica and make sure that those are included in that follow-up email. Erica, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So yeah, JD, I hope I said that properly. There are some templates and some guides that I'll send over, and you can get those. Oh, good, I did say it right. Yes. That's always like kind of low-key terrifying when you read a person's name and you're like, oh man. I mean, the ways people have pronounced Abby are just astonishing. So I'm always self-conscious about it. All right. Well,
all
cool.
Right.
And I'll extend this invitation to y'all as well. If you do think of any questions, you can either like send us an email. These are the email addresses here, or you can tweet at us or message us on Facebook. We do monitor those channels. So if something occurs to you later and you're like, wait, is this what Abby really said? You can message us and I'll at least see it and get an answer to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Abby, for sharing all of your great expertise with us today.
Perfect. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I know you guys are busy and I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to listen to me share these ideas.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.